Hello and welcome to TAM Talks, where we discuss the greatest challenges that museums and cultural leaders are facing today. In this episode, I'm talking with Karen Stevenson, Museum Director of the National Museum of the Pacific War in Fredericksburg. Welcome to the program, Karen.
Thank you. It's so nice to see you.
All right, Karen, let's dive in. Could you let us know a little bit about how you got into museum work?
Oh, I have a mother who is a museum nerd. I've been so blessed. When I was really young, she decided that she and I needed to do a mother-daughter trip, and we did all of the missions and museums on coastal California, from LA all the way to San Francisco. I was hooked. As I progressed through my university career, I was fortunate to be in a place to take advantage of an interpretive program track that really set the stage for working with objects and stories and how to integrate those in a meaningful way for visitors. So that kind of led into environmental work and environmental education. And then through the course of that, I ended up kind of migrating right into historical museums, as well as continued interest in nature centers. And any opportunity to get into a museum in any format at all, I'm up for it. So.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Glad to have you here in Texas.
Thank you.
Can you let us know a little bit about the National Museum of Pacific War for those that haven't been there? I know that we had a nice little video before this segment, but can you tell us a little bit about that museum?
Yes. So we are situated here in Fredericksburg, as you mentioned. And one of the persistent questions we have is, what is the Pacific War Museum doing in Fredericksburg, Texas? Well, this is the home of Admiral Chester Nimitz. And in 1967, the Town Fathers opted to honor the Admiral's service in World War II and his career, his leadership. And in so doing, they determined that the best way to do this was to build a museum. And so over the years, the museum has morphed from a very small museum to a very much larger museum. Today, our mission is to engage and inspire present and future generations with stories of World War II in the Pacific. And we're really working to, it's especially acute now, is to integrate the lessons we've learned and kind of look for relevancies in contemporary times. We are a Smithsonian affiliate. We have also been recognized as a American Alliance of Museums certification. We annually welcome about 150,000 visitors in the door. We also have extraordinary outreach through our education programs. Usually, feet in the door is about 1,500 kids a month. And then we also end up with digital outreach programs that span Texas as well as literally the globe. We did digital learning for a group of students in Ghana, which was so cool. We have three main gallery areas. A very large gallery that tells the story of the war, from literally what led up to Pearl Harbor all the way through to the signing of the Declaration of Surrender. We have a gallery area that focuses really on Admiral Nimitz's character and his leadership. And then we also have a museum area down, it's a couple blocks away from the main museum, the Pacific Combat Zone. And there we explore carrier aviation. And then we have a living history battlefield where we reenact scenes from the war from a beachfront, taking of the beachfront in the 1940s. So it's a really great programming. We have about 100 media installations across the campus. We have almost 1,000 artifacts on display, but we have almost 90,000 artifacts in our collection.
No, that's great. There's some big numbers.
I know, but the story is the thing, right?
Yeah. Okay, great. The next question we have is around the nuts and bolts around the museum. So, speaking to other directors, what are some of the challenges you're facing at your museum today?
Oh my goodness. We have, our museum is so extraordinary. It was completed though in 2009, a time where interpretive methods, visitor expectations, and technology were a completely different conversation than it is today. So one of our challenges is how do we adapt what we do very, very well to an audience that has different expectations than it did a decade and a half ago. We're also looking at ways as we do this, how do we move past the nostalgia of war? For those of us who are old enough to have heard our grandfather's stories about the war, to have heard our grandmothers talk about the home front experience, aunts and uncles, all of those dinner table conversations about the war stories. There's a whole population, a whole generation that doesn't have that particular reference point. So how do we make those stories relevant to a new audience? And so beyond this audience, how do we continue to grow that audience where we don't by any means want to forget these stories. They are essential to who our museum is, and they are really essential to understanding America today. So how do we integrate that nostalgia and that respect and the memory of those persons who served so valiantly, and then connect it to generations that are up and coming?
Yeah, great. And this widening the narrative is what we're seeing across museums across Texas, and it'll be the focus of our upcoming annual meeting. So, really important challenge to dive into and to address. Now back to the things that the museum is doing well. What can you brag on at the Pacific War Museum?
Oh my goodness, we have so many things going on. Key to our strategic plan is building one of the premier education programs in the country. So we have a great and very committed team of educational professionals, public historians, curatorial staff, and artifact specialists, and then archives who are working together to create outreach opportunities that we can take advantage of. We have living history reenactors who get into costume and do digital programs for kids. We work with Connect to Texas, presenting programming as often as we can. We are developing a complete suite of drop-in programs that explore things from communications to logistics to how to special artillery programs. We have a flame demonstration that we present. So there are all kinds of things like that we do really engagingly, very, very well. We also have, from our 2009 references, we do an extraordinary job capturing and communicating the details of the war, the major battles, who was involved, what were the strategic opportunities, what were the tactics employed, how many troops were involved. We really, really do an extraordinary job capturing the bullets and the battles.
Yeah, absolutely. So much so, we have our statewide informal digital learning network, and one of our first workshops is going to be held at your museum. We're really thankful that you're hosting us. So those of you that are interested in visiting, this would be a great opportunity to see the museum.
Yeah.
All right. So in our last couple minutes here, just like give you an opportunity to if there's anything else you'd like to share, upcoming programs or exhibitions.
Oh, Well, we are in the midst of designing our first ever children's exhibit space in the gallery. We will really focus for the first time on the home front experience from a 10 to 12-year-old's point of view, life in America. We've got an urban setting, we've got a rural setting, and then we have an internment setting. And those three will allow us to explore kind of the challenges that families faced on the home front during the war. Things changed so quickly, and children were all of a sudden in completely different roles. Their parents were doing different things. They were rationed. They couldn't find ink to write letters. There's all kinds of things that we're going to be working on that. And then as we're going to use that kind of as a pivot point to begin talking about reevaluating the exhibits in the Bush Gallery. And again, how do we personalize those stories to help keep them relevant for today? In addition to that, we've got education programs galore. Check the website. That's where everything's stored.
Excellent. I'm really excited about this new exhibition space because I think about it. My mother fits around that age, so just to step into time and see what it would have been like for her, I think is my personal connection and my interest in seeing that grow. So thank you for doing that.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I hope you all got a chance, a little taste of the museum if you haven't been there before, or come back again. It looks like the museum is growing and being increasingly relevant to the changing community around. So thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much.
All right. That's it for today. Goodbye.